and be a not particularly good coach. We want to try and create a marriage of those two things.
Because I said we deal with about 5,000.
Okay, it wasn't on the call. No.
So at the end of every basketball season, I think probably most coaches kind of look back and reflect on, you know, what they've achieved. How did the season go? Did it go to plan? What could they learn from? What could they do differently? What could they do better? And this season was no different. We had an exceptionally talented team this year. Came third in the league after a really close battle with a couple of teams, Bristol and Cambridge, and made it to the playoffs, which is our main goal in the season. And we were playing pretty good basketball in the first round, beat a really tough team that we'd come across a couple of times, and got to the semi-final, didn't quite get it done, lost by 10 points. And at the end of that game, you know, I think it's fair to say everyone was pretty frustrated, pretty annoyed, because I think everybody understood that we had so much more promise and we didn't fulfill that promise, and that's always kind of disheartening. And for me, I did what I do at the end of every year. I kind of look at, you know, how far we got and, you know, what things could we do better, what things did we need to do differently. But yeah, I think in those moments where you really underachieve, you know, I go into a pretty dark space for a few weeks, and I'm pretty depressed, and I'm looking at myself and looking back at all the things that I did and all the, I guess, kind of second guessing all the decisions I made over the course of the season. You know, should I have zigged when I zagged? Should I have gone left when I went right? And yeah, it's a pretty dark, lonely time. And what I try and do then is I try and touch base with as many of the positive influences in my life. But this year what I thought was, I thought I'd document that. I thought I'd document some of those conversations and some of those kind of interactions and sharing of kind of knowledge and philosophies with some pretty phenomenal coaches. And actually it encouraged me to go and maybe touch base with some people that I hadn't spoken to for a little while. So I was really lucky. I contacted my first coach, Kenny Walton, Grandmaster Kenny Walton, Taekwondo coach, who really got me started on my coaching journey. So I went to Bradford, then to Loughborough, then to Pontefract in order to kind of catch up with him, and that was just an amazing kind of experience. Then I came back home.
I started boxing when I was 9 years old, just before my 10th birthday. I remember the sign said you have to be 10, so we knew we had to lie about our age. But I went down to the boxing club, loved it. You know, me and my mates, we stood outside for a while, watched you, went in there, got a bit, you know, to get courage, a bit of confidence, just to walk in. But luckily, when I walked in there, Magic, I found the first male role model in my life. You know, since because my mum was, you know, unfortunately my dad left when I was younger, when I was about 6 weeks old actually. Do you know what I mean? And I remember thinking I want to be just like him, you know. So, but by going down the boxing gym, there was loads of male role models. Some males I thought I'm not going to be like them, and some ones I thought I would be like them, and the coach was one of them. And I think that's why he was one, without me realising, who inspired me to coaching. Because it's a funny old thing I tell kids all the time, that, you know, when you say, oh, I like sport, I want to be into sport, it doesn't mean being an athlete. It might mean being a coach, or being an official, or being the best judge, or being the best referee, or being the event organiser. So you can still be involved with sport without actually being the athlete. If you can do the sport as well, as far as you can go. And don't forget, everyone's got their limits. Some people will get to a county level, some will do a regional level, some will be national level, some will be international level. Great, some will be Olympic level. But that experience you gain, no matter what level you're at of how to box or how to do that sport, you then take it in as to be a coach. And looking back now, I had 90 fights, 90 bouts as a junior boxer, and I had another 52 as a senior boxer. So that's 142 fights. So you can imagine now that I was looking to become a world champion and to box for this, that, and the other, but it didn't happen because of my wrist injury. I couldn't go into the pro game, so I had to change my path. The path was still going towards sport, and the path was still going towards boxing, but the path changed to coaching. And now, in hindsight, thank God that happened. As much as you wouldn't know that this was like that unless I told you, because you just don't let things like that bother you. But my point is, I'm still involved with sport. I'm still involved with the sport that I love, and it's my job. All right. And most importantly is, I'm a better coach than what I was as a boxer. As much as I love boxing, I had 142, only lost 22 fights. Do you know what I mean? Out of 142. You'd think you'd be, what a boxer, but no. I'm a far better coach, and with more successes and more enjoyment from being a coach than actually doing the boxing. And I never thought I would have said that, especially when I was a young 13, 14, 15-year-old. But you never know. And that's why sport's so great.
It's like a joy.
It only gets worse. Yeah. Right. Let me give you some of these. Yeah. So what you got today is the last session before the European Champs next week in Croatia. So we're just monitoring everybody. Well, like I say, it could be quite a hard session, but just recapping, making think, get the plans together.
Cool.
We have a physio, Sarah. You remember Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah. She comes and looks after everybody. I think most people just come just to get a rub off her.
Okay, so you've been coaching a long time, and tell me how long you've been coaching, but mostly tell me what inspires you to keep coaching, what energises you to keep going.
Coaching stroke instructing. I started instructing when I was about 15. My instructor had some problems with his knees, so I ended up taking a lot of the classes. Moving forward then, attaining black belt, my instructor left and went to a different association, so then I was thrown into the deep end instructing. That moved on to then, from the instruction, I was also competing. And it's that coach instructor name which is obviously tossed around a few times. I moved into taking my own schools, instructing them as we were calling it more then, and later on, after individual success competing, I went on to become the national coach when my coach retired, and since then I've just been progressing. And the thing that drives me on is improvement. Self-improvement for me, self-improvement for the team, getting the most out of the athletes, making sure that they have fun, and they can see that the work they are putting in is paying off. And that has resulted in numerous individual titles for my personal school students and the international students, and world, European, national championships, which is my job. And my job is to just enthuse them, that enthuses me, and keep going.
So tell me a little bit about your kind of personal philosophy of coaching. I mean, you mentioned a little bit about it doesn't matter whether you're coaching the kind of recreational diver or the aspiring kind of elite diver or the elite diver, but what is your coaching philosophy when you kind of walk into into the gym?
So my coaching philosophy, as I just said a moment ago, is to make every diver as successful as they can possibly be. But I ensure there is two-way respect. I ensure they know what they're doing. But I also ensure that I deal with them not just as the athlete, but as a human being and a person. So knowing their hobbies and things that they like to do, and making sure you're discussing how they're feeling at the start of a workout. They don't just come in and follow a plan, because you need to adapt that depending on how they're feeling. They may be feeling brilliant, so the ability to learn a new dive that day might be superb. They might be feeling terrible, so you don't want them to go in the pool and get hurt, because diving is actually quite a dangerous sport. So they have to be mentally in the right place, as does the coach. So for me, that's the really important thing. So my philosophy is be the best you can be, but do that through understanding.
I think the biggest challenge in coaching, maybe for me personally, but I'm sure it is for a lot of other coaches, is being the coach that you need to be for your athletes, depending on what is going on in your life. Because I think your athletes consider that you're somewhat a superhero, and everybody's human. And I think it's meeting those demands and those expectations constantly all the time, and being that coach that you have to be for them, regardless of everything else that's going on in your life, which is challenging for everybody. And that's what you have to do all the time. And sometimes that's not as easy to meet those demands as others.
The people think coaching is just kind of stood there telling people how to do something. But I find coaching is more about getting a kid into the right mindset and getting them into like the positivity, and then going into the session. Whereas people sit on the balcony and think, right, you're just going to tell my son or daughter point his toes and then he's going to be a better diver. Whereas I find getting them into the right mindset and getting them into that mentality is actually way more than just the technical side of coaching.
So, how you build that relationship, that's more the educational thing. The players, how to practice on yourself, how the players develop themselves. Too much is relied on coaching. Far too much of individual development is relied on the coaching itself. The platform, the principles, the information, the player has to find time to do it himself. Let's be honest. If I've got you 2 nights a week for 90 minutes a session, Johnny, you can get in the school gym at 8 o'clock. You can get to a playground in the summer. No kid can't say that. Most metropolitan areas in the UK now have outdoor courts. But we're not teaching Johnny how to use the outdoor court. Johnny goes on YouTube, copies some bullshit, and before you know it, you got an issue. Where my job is to teach Johnny how to go to the outdoor court, and what can he do? Well, do what they did in the 1950s. Do 10 right-handed layups, 10 left-handed layups, 10 reverse layups, 10 foul line jump shots. Do it 3 times a week for 30 minutes. 16 weeks later, Johnny can make left-handed layups, right-handed layups. And now you design that play, and we're not teaching them how to use the outdoor courts for themselves. So self-dependent. So that kind of educational feel, more personal, more reflections, more getting coaches to share their ideas on how you develop that left-handed layup. Rather than, like I say, you go to YouTube and say, this is my latest drill. I want to see your latest fucking drill. My kid can't make a left-handed layup. Break it down for me. You know what I mean, Chris? How did you run that pick and roll? Yeah, we run a pick and roll like this. But you've got a guy that can shoot off it. You've got a guy that can dribble off it. You've got a guy that can finish the dunk. If you don't have that, don't run a pick and roll. So more questioning what we're doing, so why we're doing things, providing some very inquisitive, annoying questions for people to say, X, that's bollocks. I'd like to do that. So, shout at me. I think that's bollocks. Well, great. Then share the answer. We're not antagonizing each other. It's very stale. It's very boring. The conversation is almost non-existent. I mentioned to you the last time we spoke, I've been studying artisans. for the last decade. Butchers, bakers, martial artists, Bruce Lee's. Maybe the height of civilization is simplicity.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
What are the people that don't do team sports looking at? What are models doing? What are dancers doing? I go to Northern School of Contemporary Dance every year. I've been to the Royal Ballet a couple of times. To look at the development of individuals for individuals' sake. Pieces of the pawn make the game, not the game doesn't make the pawn. Our team is made up of human beings. How does the craftsman or the artisan mold his ability to make people to assist their development? Is that you? That's me? Oh, that's probably Ryan. Yeah, I'd switch that off because you weren't doing something with me there, were you?
And I don't think coaching is easy. I think people, we were talking before about misconceptions. People think coaching is easy. Well, maybe, I don't know how it is in an individual sport perhaps, but in a team sport, there's so many factors other than your knowledge of the sport that are put into test. And you've got to have success, you've got to have failures, how you've got to bounce back basically. And I've had both. And I think, and the other thing I suppose is we talked a lot about failure. How do you deal if you have success? And 2 or 3 years, how do you deal with that? Some people get comfortable. Some people think too much of themselves, kind of thing. There's all those kind of things. So how do you deal with that element as well? I prefer to be on that side.
I'd love to be on that side.
I prefer to. It's not an easy thing, and at the same time, you've got to have confidence in yourself. And with the common thing, and we have it a lot with young players in our academy, we always talk about confidence, especially with young players. Confidence. I mean, even with adults, to be honest. I don't think it's with young players only. Confidence is a big thing. How do you find confidence? Because is confidence given to you? Who's going to give you confidence? You have to find a way. It's the same thing with them. You have to find confidence yourself. So, and especially sometimes you kind of question yourself. Like you're going, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I teaching this the right way? Am I doing the right tactical adjustment? Am I, all these questions is, but I think you've got to find, and that's why I try to do most of the time. I try to put them in a box and throw them away. And you go like, well, I've got to have confidence, I have to have conviction that this is the way to do things.
Yeah.
And this is the loneliness, I suppose. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not just basketball. You're a leader. You're a leader of men or a leader of women, and you have to make decisions. And I don't think people recognize. We talk about misconceptions. Coaching is difficult.
Yeah.
And there's no one way of doing things. So. And I think that's the challenge of it, but that's the beauty of it as well, kind of thing. Because if you do get it right, I mean, you have an amazing group that you enjoy working with, and I think it's very inspirational. It's a little bit more difficult when you coach with the national team in the summer because everything is geared towards that. I tried to go and watch things, so I went to the Under-19s World Championship. I'm planning to go watch some of the GB teams train, the Under-16s, the Under-18s. Hopefully I can watch a couple of their practices just to see what other coaches do, because during the season it's very difficult to do that. One thing that I have started doing the last few years is I go back to the games that I felt they were the most difficult games for us. And I go back to the games against the teams that I consider in my mind as the top 3 or 4 teams, not necessarily in terms of where they finished in the league table, but more in terms of how I feel they play the game, kind of thing. And I review those games, and I look how our offense and our defense was, but also what they did as well, and try to get ideas from the other teams. So I've done that the last 2 or 3 years, kind of thing. And if it's because it's different when you go and watch the Under-19s World Championship or you watch European Championship, because you always there is the style of basketball you want to play, but there is also the style of basketball that is played in your league. And sometimes you will have to make a decision. Your style of basketball
might not
be the way for you to be successful in the league that you play. So that's a very important point as well to remember.
That's a good point.
And also that's a decision on the players as well, because sometimes you have a style of basketball in mind you like to play. However, in the league that you play, because of its physicality, because of the systems that are whatever it is, actually that type of play might not be as successful, and the system potentially might need some tweaks.
So when people ask me why I coach because I believe in people, I believe in family, I believe in community, I believe that nobody achieves their potential on their own. They need other people, they need help, they need support, they need expertise. Sometimes they need someone to listen to, sometimes they need someone to tell them what to do or to guide them or point them in the right direction. And I don't for a second think that I know all the answers, but I have grown up with enough confidence to help make decisions, to point people in a direction. Sometimes that's been really, really helpful. Sometimes I've learned from my own kind of my own hubris or overconfidence that we don't always have all the answers. With that, I've got the humility to ask people for help, ask people questions, and try and improve myself so that I can be the best coach that I can possibly be.